Hey guys, I am back once again with another exciting Doctor Who video. Now today I will be doing my Series 10 overview, episode rankings and final thoughts on Series 10. Now I want to apologise for the delay on this video. I've not had the time to record anything, but also it's been so busy at work for the last couple of days, so I do apologise for the delay on this video. However, without further ado, let's begin my 100th video on the channel, my Series 10 overview. Let's begin. Hi guys, and welcome back to another brand new Doctor Who Series 10 video. Now today I will be doing my Series 10 overview, final thoughts and my episode rankings throughout Series 10 in this video. Now before we start this video, I want to say a few words before we get started. I want to say I'm sorry for the delay on this video. This video took so long to record, but also I've not had the time to record anything because of the crappiest amount of work I've been getting throughout this week. Working 7 days a week is really tough for me, and watching every single episode of Doctor Who Series 10 is also really difficult as well. I mean, enjoying wise, I really enjoy Series 10, but when you come to memorize every single episode, you think to yourself, right, we're coming to episode 10, the East of Light. What did I like about it? Can't remember. So that's one of the things that I really don't want to happen throughout this video. So I've gone to the trouble of doing an entire list of paper. Well, basically, I've just wasted my entire life just doing this. But anyway, let's just say that I've written down every single little bit of every single little detail about every single episode of what I liked about it, the characters, the writing, the direction, and also those very little bits that I really do like. And some of the time when you watch it and then the next day, you completely forget about it. But I just like to write down every single thing that I liked about an episode, but also in a retrospective, talk about why did I like the series as a whole, and did it succeed for me as a whole? Well, for me, I think it truly succeeded, and I think we'll talk about it a bit later on when we come to the end, as well as with the characters like Bill, Nardole, the Doctor, and also with Missy, and then we'll go into the Vault Ministry and how that was executed. For me, not too well. But anyway, let's move on into the overall review. So, let's go with the overview. So, and start off with the pilot episode 1. It was a refreshing start to the series. Bill was remarkable as the first episode in Doctor Who. The relationship and the dynamic between the Doctor and Bill was fascinating to watch. Nardole was really good for the most parts. The puddle / heather creature was good. A good threat, quite subtle at times. The trip around time and space was good. Especially to witness Bill's reaction to the TARDIS and time travel. That was really good. But also, Bill was a sight of fresh air, and it was just the perfect episode to kickstart Series 10 with a bang. The dogs weren't needed as much. I just wish they weren't in the episode, because then this entire episode would get a 10. But for me, the Doctor, I love Peter Capaldi's lectures, because the lectures just really connect to his Doctor, and I really just like all those little, lectures and speeches that he does all of the time throughout his area. It's just so amazing. But also there were some hilarious lines in this as well, like a penguin with his arse on fire. That is classic. That is absolutely classic. But also the puddle and / reflection idea was a good concept, and it was original, and also it was unique as well, and we truly experienced Bill's realistic and relatability of her character. And so overall, I thought that this episode was a brilliant episode that kickstarts off Series 10. A really good start. Now, episode 2, Smile. Smile, in my opinion, is one of those episodes which many people really muck about the shit out of it, because loads of people really hate it for some apparent reason. They thought it wasn't good enough. They thought that the writing was not that bad, or actually, it was quite good for the most part, but they didn't buy it at all. However, I do like Smile. I think it's underrated. Smile was actually really good. Really decent, actually. Written by Frank Hotel Boyce, who did In the Forest of the Night, well, In the Forest of the Shite, you may say. But I would have to say Now this episode Smile was really good. I really liked it. I think the series 10 link was established throughout, you know, this series. Like the Doctor was ordered to guard a vault, but also to keep a sacred oath to keep somebody in a vault. And so that was played out throughout this episode, and it was mentioned a little briefly, and to stay on Earth and not to go on off-world and stuff like that, taught by Nard all the time. And in this was Bill's first trip to the future, and they arrive on a colony where emoji killer robots are disposing unhappy humans, and the only way to survive is to keep smiling. The ideas and the concepts introduced by Frank Hotel Boys was so creative and so imaginative, I bought it straight away. The episode really surprised me. I loved the location for this episode, and some of the time when it's really peaceful, it can become such a sinister kind of setting, and it can really build up that kind of danger mark for the episode, which I really like. I thought the killer emoji robots were really good, using emojis to communicate with each other, and they were quite cute. They were original, they were unique, and I actually really liked them as a villain. But also the bodies, they were really secretive. I also liked how they killed people in this episode, which was really fantastic, terrifying and intense. But also I loved the Doctor and Bill's relationship as they were starting to kick off and it was starting to grow, and I just liked how Bill had an amazing time, and this was like one of her best experiences. Like, oh, I'm loving this experience, Doctor, thank you for bringing me out here. So it's almost like that. So Bill, after asking all these great questions that we the viewers would like to see what Bill would usually say to the Doctor, like all of these amazing questions, and for us to really relate to her through her questions and through her reaction and her experience, it's just truly wonderful just to witness just Bill experiencing everything about time and space. It's just absolutely amazing. But also I thought the Doctor was really good, but also unfortunately the Doctor saved the day with a big fat reset button, which unfortunately led to an unfortunate ending, which is unfortunate. However, the concepts and the ideas and the production really surprised me, and this episode leads into the next episode, Thin Ice, which makes it feel like a classic Who story. But Smile overall was really good. I really enjoyed it, and no matter how many people rant on about Smile for being like one of the weakest episodes of series 10, yes, it's one of the weakest, but you have to admire the creative and imaginative side from this episode. I mean, Frank Hotel Boys did a much better job in this, and I have to say that Frank did a really fantastic job on portraying these creative ideas, the emoji robots, the bodies, the futuristic world. I bought into it straight away. It was really sort of an underrated story, but also I really do like the concept and the creative side of this episode. Just really impressed me a lot. So now moving on into episode 3, Thin Ice. Now, this episode was written by Sarah Dollard, who did a wonderful job on Series 9's Face the Raven with Clara's death. This episode sees the Doctor and Bill travelling back in time to 1814, the last Frost Fair, which has been mentioned in Doctor Who over time. I know River Song and Matt Smith mentioned it a couple of times, but I really loved this episode because it felt like a fun and light-hearted historical episode. Also, Bill sees a boy die on top of the ice, and she gets angry at the Doctor for not saving him. The episode experienced the first sight of conflict between the Doctor and Bill, which I loved their arguments. And the best line from the Doctor was that I'm 2,000 years old and I've never had the time for the luxury of outrage. And I just love that little quote there, just showing that the Doctor's never had the time for outrage at all. But the first 10 minutes sees the Doctor and Bill discussing about the rules and laws of time travel, and while yet having a wonderful time at the Frost Fair, they've just had such an enjoyment just doing all of these events, and you know, eating pies on the lake was just an amazing experience just to watch them enjoying themselves. That's what I really like seeing in the Doctor episode, them enjoying themselves, and then soon they get to work eventually. So, and then the plot started to take shape when Bill and the Doctor went down to the bottom of the Thames to find out more about this creature and why was it tied up. But also Lord Sutcliffe was using the creature's waste as fuel to create profit and stuff like that, but also he was racist towards Bill, which I thought that he was a rude idiot. But then thank goodness the Doctor punched him, because I would have pissed off at, you know, him if he even lived a second. So I was really thankful for the Doctor for punching him. Yeah, it was definitely deserved, worthy. But also there were loads of other memorable moments, like, you know, the Doctor making another powerful speech. He's so brilliant on his speeches, but also Peter Capaldi as an actor. No matter how bad an episode could be, Peter Capaldi as the Doctor always surprised me and also really shines throughout every single episode because his performances are absolutely stunning, and I can't really say much more, but I'll get into his character a bit later on. But yeah, I found this episode was so enjoyable and so fun, but I really loved it. It was one of my favourites throughout the series. It was a brilliant episode from Sarah Dollard. I really enjoyed it. Alright, now episode 4, Knock Knock. Now this episode was written by a new writer, Mike Bartlett, and this episode sees Bill and a couple of mates look for a place to stay. They stumble upon a creepy, creaking haunted house, as well as a charming and sinister landlord, played by David Suchet. His performance was so sensational. He was charming, he was well-mannered, he was creepy, he was sinister, manipulative and strong-willed. I loved the horror atmosphere with all the scratching, the knocking and creaking throughout this entire episode, which really intensified the tension and the atmosphere. The supporting cast were good. Some of them were irritating, some of them I just didn't really like, and some of them I thought they had a lot of awkwardness throughout this episode. And a lot of them, like one of those, that tall bloke, I think it was called Paul, was trying to get on with Bill, but then Bill realised and kept mentioning that, like, oh, I only like women and stuff, but just don't try and bring that up because we know that she's gay, but do you really need to bring that up in every single episode? No, so just leave it out of place. So I just thought that was a really bad thing to add. I think the awkwardness just really made me dislike the characters a lot. But at the end, when we thought everyone was all dead, then Mike Bartlett brought everybody back alive. Why the hell was that happened? I don't know, but I felt that perhaps Mike Bartlett decided that, like, I don't really want to end this episode too in horror kind of hindsight, so I'll just bring everybody back and then hopefully that'll be the end of the episode. But why the fuck did you bring everybody back? You would have a much better episode if you left everybody dead. That would be much better. But as a whole, Knock Knock was good. The ending wasn't executed well. There was brilliant atmosphere. The episode has some good horror moments, but also that everybody who died came back in the end, which was such a shame, but also a lot of wasted potential, unfortunately. And brilliant episode that had a fantastic and scare factor. I really liked David Suchet's extraordinary performance, but also the Doctor and Bill were fantastic in this. No sign of Nardole in this, unfortunately, which is unfortunate. I think he appeared at the end when he was trying to work on the vault for some reason, but anyway, and I think most of the episodes that Nardole wasn't featured in, I would have liked Nardole to be in those episodes because it would have made the whole episode more enjoying, in my opinion. But anyway, that's episode 4. Now we're moving on to episode 5, which is Oxygen. This episode was written by Jamie Matheson, who is one of my favourite writers out of the modern series. This episode itself was set in space, on the space station, where you have to pay a price for oxygen. I love this episode. It's one of my favourites from the series because it truly made space dangerous and scary again, which I love the fascinating concepts throughout this episode. This episode introduced capitalism, but also corporate business as well, which was difficult to understand at first. However, I truly understand how humans had to pay a price for the spacesuits and the irony of the spacesuits that kept you alive, but once you used all of the oxygen, the spacesuits eventually killed you. So that was really good. The episode also sees the Doctor walking into space without a space helmet, but also risking his life for Bill, and that made, you know, the Doctor quite vulnerable, because when you think about the Doctor, surely he's invincible. I mean, the Doctor's not always that person who's always invincible, and that the Doctor, and the fact that the Doctor goes blind in this episode really just shows that vulnerability of the Doctor, that the Doctor's not always invincible. He's sometimes very vulnerable when he's let out in space too long, and I really like that, showing some vulnerability, and that's really good. And I thought that the Doctor was fantastic, and we saw some actual danger that Bill was actually going to be exposed to the vacuum of space. There were some moments that Bill was converted to become a space, like, zombie or a space corpse. That was really good. And the look of the creatures, the zombies, were really horrifying. They were really creepy, in my opinion. But also, I think this was the jumping on point for Nardole, and he was really good in this, because I think this was the jumping on point for many people, and me, for really to fully enjoy Nardole. Nardole, and he was really, really amazing in this. And this episode was truly a really great episode by Jamie Mathieson. It was fun and enjoying, but also had some amazing concepts and ideas like the irony of the spacesuits, space capitalism and business, and it was just so funny and so hilarious and enjoying to watch. And the cliffhanger was really, really good. But also at the end, I loved the Nardole seriousness at the end. He was really, really good with his seriousness, like commanding and shouting at the Doctor when the Doctor revealed that he's still blind. Even though he was cured of it in the TARDIS, he was still blind in the end, which I thought that was really, really good. Again, space corpses were creepy. I loved the look of them, and the overall experience itself was truly overwhelming. And they went back to basics, and they made space the most dangerous element in the entire universe. They made it dangerous again, which I absolutely adore. The overall experience of making space dangerous, and they finally made an episode where space is actually a real threat. Not like that kind of shit like Kill the Moon, and Kill the Moon was awful, but Oxygen is way better to point out that space is much dangerous if you point it in a context that you have to pay a price for oxygen. That's an ingenious concept, and I think Oxygen, throughout those ideas, it's one of my favourite episodes throughout this series because of the ideas presented in this. So Oxygen is one of my favourites, and Jamie Mathieson is one of my favourite writers of all time in the modern series. He's absolutely amazing. And now we're moving on into the Monk three-parter, starting off with the first episode, Extremis. Now, this episode saw the Doctor executing his friend slash Missy, as she was the person sealed inside the vault. Well, let me get onto her a bit later on, and the whole vault business a bit later on. And I thought Missy was really good. She had a lot of emotion, and I liked those little quotes that she said, without hope, without witness, without reward. And I thought that was really good of her. But also, this episode saw the Doctor reading an ancient text called the Veritas. The Veritas is a deadly text which anyone who translates or reads automatically choose hell, because once you read it you kill yourself, and I really like that concept. The Doctor meets a Cardinal and also the Pope, which unfortunately he spoke Italian, which meant that the TARDIS translation system didn't seem to be working. I thought, what the hell, they haven't got the translation system back on. So I thought that was a bit of a disappointment, honestly. They asked the Doctor if he can translate the Veritas, but whereas we know that he can't see anything because he's blind. And we also see that the creepy monks for the first time, which I actually like the look of monks in this. But also they were terrifying and interesting, and I like to see what their motives are. And they were really interesting. But also this episode had a lot of flashbacks to the Doctor and Missy's execution scenes. And I thought the scenes with Missy and the Doctor were good, but I thought that, you know, why was Missy a prisoner in the first place? Did she do something unexpectedly? We didn't even know that in the first place. But I felt that the scenes were really good, but what did it lead up to? Like her being inside the vaults? Yeah, I want to get onto that bit later on, because I have a little doubts of why was Missy inside the vaults and why so much suspense was ruined by that surprise that Missy was inside the vault. So I'm going to go on a bit more into detail with Missy in that sense. But then they explained about the Doctor swearing an oath to guard Missy's body for 1,000 years, and like the Doctor had wanted to turn good for the Doctor's sake, without hope, without witness, without reward, and all that kind of stuff. And then the Doctor was really good as well with Bill. Nardole was a badass in this. I loved him with his comic relief element, but also his strict permission to kick the Doctor's ass when necessary. I really like that. And the Doctor, and then this is the whole plot, which is really confusing. At first it was confusing, but then once it clicks in your mind, you honestly understand it straight away, like with the monks creating a shadow world to test and how to conquer the Earth, and they create a virtual simulated world with simulated humans who think they're real but they're not. And that the humans inside the virtual computer simulated world think they're like people inside of video games, and then the Doctor, Bill and Nardole realise that they're not real, and all of this entire episode is not real at all, just to send a message, to send all of this information to the Doctor in the real world by sending a virtual email. But how would that email even get to the Doctor if it's in a virtual reality world, if it does not even exist? Or perhaps maybe the email does exist, but it's just sent to the Doctor as he's there in the real world. So it's actually a fake reality world, but then the Doctor gets a text from the virtual reality Doctor by email. So I thought that was really good, but also understanding what the Veritas tells us, and that how an evil demon wants to conquer the world, but it needs to learn about it first. So I thought that Extremis was a really strong episode. There was a lot of faff and a lot of explanations with this confusing plot. I mean, this plot with the whole worlds, virtual simulated world thing was really confusing at first, but once it clicks in your mind, you truly understand what it means. So yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm going to confuse your mind even more. But anyway, I really like The Extremist, but it's a classic Steven Moffat episode, and the fact that the 3-parter just did not work for me, it was that it was written by 3 different writers. Although it was written by Steven Moffat, Peter Harness, and also with Toby Whithouse, it just felt very inconsistent throughout the entire 3-parter, that every single adventure felt really different, and unfortunately, it just didn't work as a whole, that entire 3-parter for me. Now moving on to episode 7, The Pyramid at the End of the World. Now this one is actually my favourite because it's not confusing like Extremist, but also it's not poorly written or poorly directed like The Lie of the Land was. But it was really great, and this episode sees the Dr. Bill and Nardole travel to Turkmenistan to observe a 5,000-year-old pyramid which was in there yesterday, and I thought that the pyramid itself was just there as a little disguising itself as a spaceship. It's situated between the Americans, the Chinese and the Russian armies, thinking it may be, you know, the beginning to World War III, but however, somewhere else is about to begin a massive biological disaster which could end the world. And I realised that element with the doomsday clock added, and the monks were observing that kind of one laboratory that was about to end the world of all bacteria and stuff like that. And I realised that element of the doomsday clock, so no matter how many minutes you're close to midnight, the closer and much deadlier the catastrophe will be. I really liked that of the doomsday clock. I thought that was a neat concept. But also, I like the monks in this. The monks are at their best in this, and what their motives are and how they deal with consent. I thought the idea with the consent was really good, and how they judge of people's consent, if it's pure or impure. If your consent is impure, then they automatically kill you, but if it's pure, they accept, you know, your help, and then they are introduced into the world, and they, you know, completely take over the world. And that's what happens in this episode, where Bill asks the monks for the help, but also Bill gives her consent to the monks, and they find that Bill's consent is pure, and so the Doctor is healed from his blindness. And I thought the blindness, as you know, his blindness was healed up, he only had the blindness for 1 or 2 episodes, which I thought it was good for the time, but how they executed his blindness was good, but it could have been a whole lot better in my opinion. But again, I really liked this episode because it was the strongest out of the 3-parter for me, but also I really liked the supporting characters. It was directed well, the writing was really good, but what did it lead up to just didn't work for me, unfortunately. But it was one of my favourite episodes from the 3-parter, so at least I liked that. But also, I liked Nardole in this. I thought he was good. Capaldi was really good as well, and then Bill was also good as well. And then also, I have to say again, the monks are absolutely at their best in this. And then when we go to the next episode, The Lie of the Land, this is where things really go downhill for me. The Lie of the Land is the final episode of the 3-parter, and sadly it is the weakest out of all of the episodes, and it's my weakest episode overall from Series 10. This episode wasn't brilliant, it was written horrible, and also it was poorly directed, and just the things that messed up the episode was just the fake regen. It wasn't really need to be there, it was just clickbait, and I just felt that it didn't lead up to the Doctor's real regeneration. And I thought that the whole thing about Bill's mom going viral was just felt really too cringy, and it was just very uninteresting for me. It just didn't feel believable in my opinion. But just I felt really unsatisfied with the episode because of what it portrayed at the end. I mean, the ending was poor. I thought the CGI was really terrible, and just all of the monks were oblivious in this. They were poorly executed in this. They didn't do much, and the whole ending of the entire episode and the entire 3-parter just made me feel so unsatisfied, and it was just a big disappointment because there was a lot of wasted potential. However, there were the nice concept of how the monks have been here since the dawn of time, and how they've manipulated Earth's history and stuff like that. But I just can't get over the fact of how much wasted potential they did with this episode, with this entire 3-parter. It's just that there needed to be a whole lot more, you know, convincing of Bill's mom going viral as the actual plot ending or stuff like that. But also, the monks needed to be in it more to make it much enjoying and more threatening. But the monks were just oblivious in this. But also, there were some good things, like Bill was sensational with her character. Nala was great, but also the Doctor, as he was going to turn bad and join the monks, it really just shows and portrays how strong Bill's character was throughout this episode. I mean, she stuck onto the truth for the Doctor, and then the Doctor turning his back against Bill and going and joining up against the monks was really good. I actually wanted him to continue with that a bit more, but they only just did it with the fake regen, just completely killed it off for me. So unfortunately, The Lie of the Land is the weakest episode from Series 10, and just left me unsatisfied and just was a disappointment overall. There was just so much wasted potential, and there was so much improvement needed, and it just didn't feel like this episode was a perfect ending for this month 3 part. It was just really, really bad in my opinion. So yeah, let's just move over from The Lie of the Land to The Empress of Mars. Now, The Empress of Mars is one of my favourite episodes from Series 10. I love The Empress of Mars because this is Mark Gatiss' best script, his best Doctor Who story of all time, which sees the return of the Ice Warriors. I honestly love this episode because it feels like a proper, strong Ice Warriors story. The Ice Warriors didn't come out of their suits or their armour. There was more than one Ice Warrior, which I really liked, and how every single Ice Warrior was called every single day of the week. Like, one was called Friday, is another one called Wednesday or Tuesday or Monday, I don't know, but I feel like that's going to be the concept of naming every single Ice Warrior every single day of the week. I actually quite like that, but I thought the Ice Warriors were really fantastic. But also we see the first ever female Ice Warrior, Araxa, who was so beautiful and brilliant in this episode. But also the one thing that I do admire from Araxa, that she valued Bill's opinion woman to woman, as they were surrounded by noisy males and all these Victorian idiots all the time. So I really do like that kind of personality traits of Araxa, ensuring Bill's value of opinion. I really like that. I thought it was a great solid episode. It was really fantastic. At first I thought the Victorian soldiers in the episode was quite odd and quite random. However, I did feel like this episode was a very much British episode. It had many British references like God Save the Queen, scones and tea, bravery, but also Queen Victoria as well, and honour. And then I thought the supporting cast were absolutely fantastic. I thought that they were really amazing, and we got to know their backstories, like the Colonel's desertion post, but also that one person, I think that was that one black soldier who was unfortunately slaughtered by Catchlove, which was a shame to see him die. But Catchlove was really, really amazing. It was absolutely sensational. His character was devoted, he was respectful, honourable, and yet still arrogant, ruthless and manipulative towards the Colonel. And the Colonel was absolutely loving and caring towards his men. And the plot was absolutely brilliant, brilliant action sequences, and the direction was much better in this episode, as well as with the writing from Mark Gatiss. This is Mark Gatiss' best episode so far throughout his Doctor Who career, and will always remain one of his best episodes as he's leaving this year. And also, I thought that Bill was really good, as well as with the Doctor, thinking and saluting with honour towards the Empress. Nardole didn't appear much, but Missy was teased at the end, which I thought that her teasing was good. Unfortunately, I do have to say that Missy, with all of her teasers up to now, is basically teasing her to the finale. And that's basically what the writers are now doing. They're basically introducing Missy in all of the remaining episodes just to tease her up to the finale and just to overall intrigue us for the finale. That's all they're doing really with Missy now. But I love the Classic Who reference to Alpha Centauri, which appeared in The Curse of Peladon and The Monster of Peladon, which was really, really good. I thought it was a very surprising kind of shock to me, but also it was really amazing just to see that little voice and like, who am I speaking to? And like Alpha Centauri, like, oh my gosh, it's Alpha Centauri. Wow. I mean, that was such a brilliant Classic Who reference. I love that reference. But yeah, brilliant work from Mark Gatiss. Did a really good job with this episode. Really good Ice Warrior story. One of my favourites. And perhaps one of my favourite Ice Warrior stories of all time now. Yeah, really good episode, Mark Gatiss. And now moving on to episode 10, The Eaters of Light. This episode sees the Doctor, Bill and Nardole travel to Aberdeen, Scotland in the 2nd century AD. Bill thinks she knows more about the 9th Legion of the Roman Empire than the Doctor does. But also the question is, how did 5,000 Romans of the 9th Legion disappear? This is actually based on life events. Like, the Romans did actually disappear in the mists of Scotland, and no one knows the truth. I love the history behind the Ninth Legion, although I wasn't really good at history at school, but you can always learn so much about history in a subtle way in a Doctor Who episode. That's just what I really like about historical episodes. I'm on Mona Munro as the last ever writer to write the last ever classic Who story, Survival. She did really good for her first modern episode. I really liked it. The episode wasn't the best, but it had some really good characters like the Romans and the nasty barbarians. Some of them were really good, some of them were irritating. I thought Nada was absolutely funny as hell in this. He was absolutely comedic. I think one of my favourite lines from him was that Death by Scotland, but also like I mean Spagball. Oh, Nada was absolutely brilliant in this. He was really good. Bill was brave in this, and I liked how she had so much courage just to speak to the Romans. She wasn't afraid of the Romans. She was very much encouraged to go and speak to the Romans, and the Romans were really kind. Apart from the barbarians giving an exact description about the Romans that the barbarians gave weren't like the Romans in this episode. The Romans were more kind and they were more caring towards Bill, whereas in real Roman times they would be more slaughterous, evil people. And so I thought that the Romans in this episode didn't really feel like proper Romans. They didn't felt more like, you know, Romans who took a very much opposite twist to what real Romans should be like. So I felt that was a bit disappointing. However, I thought that the Eaters of Light was a nice concept. I liked the creature of it. The creature was really good. I thought the CGI could have been better, but the whole thing about the atmospheric settings and also the scenery and the music was really good. Murray Gold is an absolute music legend. And did I tell you that Murray Gold is leaving in Doctor Who this year? So yeah, unfortunately we won't have more brilliant music, but I wonder who will do all the music for Doctor Who next year for Series 11. So that's going to be really interesting. But also I thought that the entire episode was really good. I thought the barbarians were okay. Some of them were irritating, but I thought the Doctor was absolutely sensational in this. I think in every single episode he plays with his heart out, and I felt in this episode he was going to swear in their faces for stop arguing or stop fighting, like grow the hell up. Like that kind of attitude, like he was going to swear in their faces for moments, and I was actually really expecting for Malcolm Tucker, like, oh, you shut the... Yeah, you know. But anyway, the episode was written well, it was directed well. I mean, there were some good performances from Bill, Nardole, and also from the Doctor. But I think the supporting characters still say down, there's some good direction. But yeah, a great historical by Mona Munro, a really good episode. But now we're moving on into the penultimate episode, World Enough and Time. Well, what can I say about this episode then? This episode is one of the greatest Doctor Who episodes of all time. I love the suspense of this episode. The episode begins with the regeneration scene, which is just so brilliant, and it hooked me up straight away, and it just sent a message to me that time is almost up for the Doctor. And I just really liked that regeneration scene at the beginning because time is running out. The CGI work in the black hole is brilliant, and I love the giant spaceship. 400 miles long and 100 miles wide is a pretty big spaceship to fit all of these cities and landscapes. It was really gripping me. It's like a spaceship that's bigger on the outside but much even bigger and enormous inside. So that's what I really think about that entire ship. It's like the TARDIS, but instead of being bigger on the outside, it's even bigger on the inside. So I actually really like that. And just I thought that the entire, you know, whole black hole, the CGI worked, has some brilliant effects. Missy was trying to be like the Doctor, saying like, oh, I'm Doctor Who. And like, I really like that. And I think this was more like an episode to test Missy if she can be good or not, and the Doctor was testing her whether she can be good, and it was really nice to explore their entire backstory, their friendship together, that we didn't really know of the Doctor and the Master together. So I thought that was really good, and I thought that the sudden shooting of Bill right through the heart was absolutely heartbreaking and so emotional to watch. Just to see the hole in Bill's body was just so heartbreaking, and the fact of seeing Bill just shot just blew my mind. But also the Doctor was about to finish off the speech, and then it just suddenly happened. Bill was just shot and just standing there, and then he just silently just fell backwards. And the Doctor was in absolute shock. He was gobsmacked at what he saw. And that was really heartbreaking for us fans who really enjoyed Bill all throughout the series, and then just seeing her dead on the floor was absolutely so emotional, and I really liked that. But also then we see these unconverted patients taking her away down to the bottom of the ship, and I thought that the hospital looked absolutely dark, atmospheric, eerie and so creepy just to fully experience that kind of atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere was certainly impalpable, but also it felt more like the Empty Child and the Doctor dances, where the Doctor walked through that ward and you see all of these creepy patients. It's so atmospheric, and just with all these patients sitting in these wheelchairs just saying that constant word of pain, pain, pain. It's like telling you that, you know, these patients are suffering from pain. And I realised that emotion being repeated over and over again. Pain, pain, pain. It's so gripping you that these patients are actually suffering from pain. And I thought Mr. Razor was really, really good. He was absolutely amazing. He was sly, he was charming, but also he was very unpredictable as well. He was very mysterious. But then he was later revealed as John Simm's master. And the best possible way to keep John Simm's master a secret in any episode is to put him in a disguise. What could be better than John Simm's master than having him be like the master of disguise? Such of a brilliant way just to clever up to cast his disguise as the master, as Mr. Razor. He was absolutely amazing in this. But also I do like Bill in this. She was really good. And then it was like a really great experience to see the beginning of the Cybermen, the genesis of the Cybermen. Many people kind of disagree whether it relates to spare parts or for the genesis of the Cybermen was spare parts. However, I do really like that, how this is the beginning of the Mondasian Cybermen, and just to see the conversions and to see the entire experience of Bill going through that process was absolutely fascinating to watch. The direction was epic, but also the writing by Stephen Moffat. Moffat truly succeeds with his penultimate episodes, and I thought Capaldi, Missy and also Nada were really fantastic in this, and just the entire overall experience of experiencing that conversions to becoming Mondasian Cybermen was just so amazing just to watch. And I really, really do like Mr. Razor, or should I say John Sims. John Sims was absolutely amazing, and the reveal was like, oh my gosh, it's John Sims. And even so, when you saw that Mr. Razor and Missy were alone together, you know this was the moment where we see John Sims revealing himself to Missy. And I mentioned this in my review. If Missy doesn't know John Sims, but John Sims knows Missy, then Missy should not be the master. And then I had my discussions now and again, but again, I kind of felt that Missy was the master, and then my ideas still stick in my head though, because it still makes me wonder that is Missy truly the master, or has she been another incarnation where she's not been the master? Maybe she's the Rani, and I had my ideas throughout my entire review at that time. But World Enough and Time was absolutely sensational, and it was absolutely one of the best episodes throughout Series 10. But also did I mention that Missy also did a little dab in the episode, which I thought was really, really good. But also I just felt that the entire experience, Bill was brilliant. She was calm, but also she waited for the Doctor for such a long time, for many decades. And the entire concept of at the top of the spaceship, time is moving very, very fast. But then as you go to the bottom of the spaceship, where there's a more source of gravity, time slows down. And I really realised how Bill waited for so many decades for the Doctor, and then unfortunately for once this time the Doctor unfortunately ran out of time and he was too late to save Bill. So I thought that was really, really amazing, because in some episodes, there's always the point where the Doctor just makes it in time just to save his companion, but instead, in this episode, the Doctor's too late to save his friend, Bill. And I thought that the entire cliffhanger at the end was absolutely incredible. One of the best cliffhangers for ages and ages. I love the cliffhanger at the end. And yeah, that was World Enough and Time. And now we are moving on to the final episode, The Doctor Falls. Again, I'm speechless. What can I say? I mean, there aren't any words to describe the final episode. This was the most epic and most perfect episode that Moffat has ever done in his Doctor Who career. He took so much care with this episode. He did a superb job. Missy and the Master were brilliant together. I liked them both flirting with each other. I thought that was really good because it made them both more dangerous with each other. Many people didn't like the flirting, but I certainly did like the flirting with them. But also I felt that Missy was the complete opposite of John Simm's Master. She was cunning, she was flirtatious, she was sentimental, And then you had John Sims, which took a very much old school approach. His facial hair, the expressions, he felt more like a suave, cold-hearted, sinister master, like Roger Delgado's master. That was really, really good. And I thought that the dancing on top of the rooftop was quite good. And another thing I quite liked in The Doctor Falls was that little silent black and white movie of the Doctor being busted open by John Sims' master and Missy. That was really, really well executed there. But also I liked the Cybermen, they were really well executed. The action sequences were spectacular, and I liked the Cybermen being blown up. And also I liked one time where one Mondasian Cyberman was shocking the Doctor and he was being electrocuted, and then Bill killed off that other Mondasian Cyberman. So that was really, really good. And speaking of Bill, when we thought that Moffat brought Bill back, I was about to flip out and go out on a rant, and I was going to turn the TV off, but no. I watched it a bit more, and then I truly understand what Moffat was trying to do. Instead of Bill being brought back as her human self, we saw that as Bill looked into the mirror, we saw a Mondasian Cyberman. So that made us think that Bill is still a Mondasian Cyberman, but we see her as human, not as a Cyberman. And as some of the times, the episode keeps flipping back that we see it as a Cyberman, but also as Bill as well. So I really, really like that. And I think Moffat executed that really, really well, because I think he took care of how he created a way that Bill sees herself or what she used to be like, but her mind has rebelled against the programming and she sees herself as what she used to be, not as who she is right now. And I thought the Doctor was absolutely epic in this. His performance, his final battle was absolutely sensational, and the way he spoke to Bill as what she used to be like, not as a Cyberman, was really, really good. And it made us truly understand what Moffat was trying to do with Bill in this episode. Although she was brought back, but still, I really like the concept that she is still a Mondasian Cyberman, but we see her as a human and what she used to be like. That was really well executed by Stephen Moffat there. But also I thought that the entire episode was a roller coaster of emotions. I laughed, I cried, I wept, I admired about everything of this episode, especially when I was shocked that Missy stabbed John Sims' master, but also when John Sims' master shot Missy in the back and they all lived a painful death at the end. I thought that was really heartbreaking, but also amazing to watch them both dying at the same time. But also, I don't know if this is going to be the end for the Master. Will we ever see Missy again? Or will John Sims' master regenerate into Missy? Or will Missy regenerate into another person? We have no idea with the Master story now. However, I do feel that The Doctor Falls is an absolutely sensational episode. Nardole was really good. I love the farewells of this episode. The farewells were just so incredible, especially Nardole risking his life for the Doctor, and his farewell was just something else, and I absolutely love Nardole in this. He was absolutely amazing. But also I liked Bill as Heather was brought back from the pilots, and how they had a very much happy ending in the end, and how Bill was, you know, finished off on a high with her character, and that Bill's character was finished in a much suitable fashion for her, which I really, really do like. And then the Doctor's performance was legendary, and Peter Capaldi exceeded my expectations for this episode. From his motivational defying speech to him being determined and saying to himself, I don't want to go, I do not want to change, never again. And then what could be better to finish off the entire episode with an amazing cliffhanger than David Bradley returning in the Christmas special as the First Doctor. Wow, what can I say? But anyway, although that was quite long for me, reading this entire sheets of paper all throughout, you know, this entire overview. However, if I have to give ratings, episode rankings for this video, I would have to say in 12th place is The Lie of the Land. Then in 11th place, I would have to say The East of Light. Then I would have to say in 10th place, Smile. Really underrated, that one. I would have to say in 9th place, Knock Knock. Then in 8th place, Extremis. Then in 7th place, I would have to say The Pyramid at the End of the World. Then in 6th place, Thin Ice. Then in 5th place, The Pilot. 4th place, The Empress of Mars. 3rd place, Oxygen. Now this one's going to be really tricky. Which one I'm going to like? And since the Doctor Falls truly succeeded from the build-up from World Enough and Time, I'm actually going to rate World Enough and Time in second place, and then in first place, the Doctor Falls. I mean, the episode itself was truly amazing, and since the build-up episode, the penultimate episode, was truly amazing, and what did it live up to? A fantastic final episode. So I overall have to give the Doctor Falls the first place spot on my episode rankings. But with the Series 10 link throughout this entire series, missing being inside the vault, I thought there was a lot of wasted potential with it, because I thought the first 5 episodes of the series was really, really good, building up this entire tension of who's inside the vault, who's it going to be, and then suddenly in Extremis they revealed it slightly that Missy was inside the vault, and I was felt, okay, Missy's inside the vault. That's a bit disappointing. So overall, I just thought that there was a lot of wasted potential with Missy being inside the vault. I mean, I wouldn't give a damn if Missy was inside the vault, but it didn't feel convincing that they built up so well with this series plot arc, but they completely wasted on how it played out. I mean, just there was a lot of wasted potential with the series arc, and I felt that at the end, when in like the Empress of Mars and the East of Light, Missy being teased in those episodes, it was only just for a teasing that she would be in the finale. And yeah, I do have to say that Missy has been good throughout the series. However, I think the best performance from her character throughout every single series in Doctor Who, I would have to say her best performance is in the Doctor Falls and World Enough in Time, but also in Dark Water and Death in Heaven, just because her character was established then. The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar was okay. Extremis was okay, The Lie of the Land was really rubbish, and then I thought the teasers in the other 2 episodes were really pointless. So yeah, I thought Missy was okay in this series. I thought she was better than what I expected, so she was really good for the time. Nardole was really fantastic. There were no possible words than to describe Nardole. Nardole was seriously an unpredictable character that you may not think that he would absolutely fit in the TARDIS team, but my word, I honestly loved Nardole to bits. From episode 1, I really loved him, but also to the end, it was so emotional for his farewell, and I didn't really want to say goodbye to Nardole. I even had a little teardrop down my eye when he said goodbye to the Doctor. Oh, Nardole will be missed, and he is one of my favourite companions in the modern series of Doctor Who, really is, because I truly love Nardole and I truly love Matt Lucas. He's a wonderful actor, and the way he did all of this in Series 10 just truly surprised me of how brilliant of an actor Matt Lucas has become, and Doctor Who will always remain as one of his best highlights in his career. I would absolutely love Nardole to come back, and I wish he does come back, because I really don't want Nardole to go. But in World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls, he had an absolutely brilliant performance, and I love the farewell for him. The comic relief blended well with the seriousness, and also taking care of the Doctor to keep him on world, and to keep him telling him about he needs to promise to guard the vault and keep his oath was really, really fantastic. And so I thought Nardole was absolutely sensational throughout this series. He was one of the best characters who I thought he was not going to be a brilliant character at all. As for many people truly disliked Nardole from the start. Many people really hated him. But look at him now. He's become one of the best companions in the modern series, and many people now treasure Nardole forever, and I certainly do. And I think Bill, as a relatable, normal companion, not like that kind of fantasy kind of companion from Clara, Bill is way better than Clara for so many reasons. For her relatability, she's so realistic, she's normal, she asks questions where we can relate to her, and she feels so normal, and she definitely feels like a character, a proper, real, normal, realistic character that we can all relate to, and she was just the perfect companion to be in Series 10. I absolutely loved Pearl Mackie playing Bill in this series. She was so sensational in this. She was a breath of fresh air, and I absolutely loved every single minute of her. But also, Peter Capaldi is truly my favourite Doctor, and his performance in this, in every single episode throughout series 10, but also throughout every single series. It doesn't really matter how bad of an episode it can be, but Peter Capaldi always shines through every single episode because his performance, because he truly loves the show, his performances are absolutely standout moments in his career, and Peter Capaldi will always remain my favourite Doctor of all time in the modern series. He is my favourite Doctor and I've loved him in every single episode. Every single episode, he succeeds my high expectations of him, and I absolutely treasure him as my favourite Doctor of all time. And the one question I have to say now, guys, was Series 10 a brilliant success? Oh yes, definitely. Series 10 was the perfect series to finish off Peter Capaldi's Doctor with a bang, and I'm really excited for the Christmas special, but also I'm really quite sad that he's leaving this year. I don't want him to go, but all good things must come to an end. But Series 10 has been an absolute triumph, and I hope you have enjoyed this video, guys, on my long overview, episode rankings and my final thoughts of the series. Series 10 was truly remarkable. I absolutely adored every single minute of Series 10 because we had a year without Doctor Who, but my gosh, I absolutely love Doctor Who now because of that series. And did Series 10 deliver? Oh yes. Hell yes, definitely it did. One of the best series in all of modern Who for me. And this is Peter Capaldi's best series to send off his Doctor in Doctor Who. I absolutely adored every single character. I liked every single episode. Some of the episodes needed to be improved on, but there were some standout episodes like World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, Oxygen, The Empress of Mars, The Pilot. Every single thing I loved about Series 10 truly succeeded my expectations. Thank you very much, guys, for watching for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like on this video, and also please comment down below and tell me what did you think of Series 10 as a whole. Please do comment down below. I'm interested to hear your opinions, and please do subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much, guys, for watching for this video, and I'll see you guys next time in the next video. I'll hopefully get that next video hopefully up very soon, but it depends really what I do. But anyway, thank you very much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you guys next time in the next video. Bye for now.